Help, I'm a Parent is owned by Dr. Naomi Rutten, Mental Health GP. It has been developed with the support of the town of Gawler. Help, I'm a Parent includes examples, images and references for information purposes only and are not associated to the town of Gawler in any way or form. All information provided and discussed is general advice and should not be considered specific to your own situation. Professional support should be sought if this session raises concerns for you. Helpline details are below in the YouTube content. Welcome back to Help, I'm a Parent. Thank you very, very much for joining us today. I am Dr. Naomi Rutten, a general practitioner who specialises in mental health.
And I'm Ebony. I am a parent of two little people, and I also work for the town of Gawler and run the kind of children and youth kind of section. So yeah.
Good. And I am, when I'm not doctoring, I am a general practitioner, our mother of three kids. I am a general practitioner, but I'm a mother of three kids, and that's the priority most of the time. So today's topic will be around understanding the developing brain. It's the first sort of part of the Bringing Up Great Kids program, and I've adapted it so that we can do it online. Mm-hmm. So what will happen is I will be working through it with Ebony, whilst addressing things and sort of educating everybody at home as well. So we've had a few questions which we'll discuss and look at the end. Yeah. And if anybody has any questions about anything we've talked about today, please let us know. Some of the stuff that we're talking about may raise issues for people, so please be aware that if it does, please seek help, because there is help out there always, and people who will be able to provide you the assistance that you need. So I'm going to hand over to Ebony for our acknowledgement.
Yeah, so it's just really important, we think, to do our acknowledgement of country. So we just want to acknowledge that the country we meet on here today, and you may be meeting somewhere else, but where we're meeting is the Kaurna lands, and that we respect their spiritual beliefs, and we also acknowledge their leaders past, present and emerging. It's a really exciting time because it's actually Reconciliation Week at the moment, Dr. Naomi.
I was very excited when I heard that on the news.
My little girl's gone to school today dressed up in her red, yellow and black items to celebrate Reconciliation Week. So yeah, it's pretty cool.
That is exciting.
Yeah, we've got an amazing culture through our Aboriginal people, and it's important to celebrate.
It is very, very much so. All right, so we're just going to go back over the rules around this. So I'll be doing the program with Ebony. So please be considerate around the vulnerability that Ebony is providing for us, because it's not easy to open up in front of people, especially online, and allow yourself to show any weaknesses or fears that you have. All right, so in regards to the Facebook page that we have that's associated with this program.
Yeah, so it's great that there's been so many of you already joining, so please continue to do so and spread the word to friends and family that you feel might benefit. So the group itself is set up for those that are parents. Ideally you live or very well connected to the Gawler area. And really any posts that we put there, we just request that they're either a question or a share. So, and if you can actually start your post with question or share, just so we're really clear about what you're either asking or what you're sharing, and how we might need to respond to that. We ask that everyone just be very aware that it's all about, this group is totally to be supportive, encouraging and non-judgmental. Opinions and advice on somebody else's parenting are not welcome. We are all on that learning and growing journey together. So please just keep that in mind while you're within that group. If you felt like as well you couldn't ask a question publicly, or you didn't feel comfortable to do that for whatever reason, that's totally fine. You are welcome there to private message us as admins, and we can address it still confidentially if you like, or anonymously through the sessions as well. That's totally fine. And lastly, we just ask that there's no swearing. That would be wonderful. Thank you.
Good. Okay, so what I'll be talking about today is getting an understanding of a child's brain. As parents, most of us, and I'm hoping the majority of us, want to do the best job that we can, all right? Our job as parents is to meet the needs of children and their growing, developing brain. And to be able to meet those needs, we have to have an understanding about what their brain is and how it grows and develops.
Yeah.
And the reality is brains grow and develop at completely differing parts at different ages, and depending on gender and different culture and different genetics, there are a lot of factors that affect how a brain grows and develops.
Yeah.
All right. So when we're parenting, it's important for us to think about, number one, as a parent, what sort of adult do we want our children to be?
It's a big question when most of us are still working out the kind of adult we want to be.
Yeah.
So,
and that's exactly right.
Yeah. Okay.
Because their brains are growing from us.
Yeah.
Okay. And we'll go further into that throughout this. So to get an understanding of the brain, for those people at home, if you can see that, rolled up in one of my son's old socks, that is the size of a newborn baby's brain.
Wow, that's almost the size of their actual entire head.
Yeah.
Really?
Yep.
Not
So
far
how
off it.
much do you reckon that would weigh?
Oh, I don't know, a couple 100 grams.
Yeah. So a newborn baby's brain weighs 400 grams on average. Okay? So that's a newborn baby's brain. Make sure I get the right one. This, for those at home, this is the newborn. This is a 3-year-old baby, a child's brain. So how much do you reckon that weighs?
Oh, that'd have to be a kilo or more.
Yeah. So it's 1.1 kilos.
Okay.
So in the first 3 years of life, the brain grows from about 400 grams to 1.1 kilos.
Wow. Okay.
All right, that is a massive, massive amount of growth and development. This is the average size of an adult brain.
That's not that much heavier. It really isn't.
So if you compare that
kind of size,
3-year-old and adult.
Okay.
So an adult brain is on average 1.4 kilograms.
300 grams more than that.
Yep.
Righto.
So there are lots of changes, obviously, between a 3-year-old brain and an adult brain. But when you're looking at the volume size, there's not much difference.
Okay.
All right. When we are born, we have the tools there. The brain develops from a down-up approach. So the earliest evolutionary areas develop first, and then the development sort of cements itself and continues to develop and grow in an upwards pattern.
Mm-hmm.
So to show that, and I'm going to put a picture up on the screen for those at home. This is a picture of the brain.
Okay.
So we have the brainstem. The brainstem is the area which is fully developed, fully functional. I've got to make sure I get my words right.
Yeah.
Is fully functional when a baby is born. Okay? The brainstem is off, and the cerebellum are often referred to as the reptilian brain.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? So when we look at how animals have evolved over time, there is a theory that was sort of the earliest developed.
Okay.
The brainstem is about basic life functions. It controls heart regulation, breathing regulation, hunger cycles, sleep cycles, and it also has a centre in it for play. So one of my big things is that play is essential to life. And I feel like in our society, play has been very much undervalued and belittled.
Yeah.
Adults are not encouraged to play, and it's often frowned upon. Sport is a form of play, yes, but there are a lot of people who are not interested or don't have time to play sport. So we need to make sure that we play, because it is an essential life function. All animals play. Baby rats play.
Mm-hmm.
Baby bears play.
Mm-hmm.
All animals play.
Okay.
Okay? The cerebellum, and hopefully you at home can see on the image, develops mostly around, it has a peak growth around the age of 2 and 3.
Mm-hmm.
That is the area that is about movement, posture. Okay? So when you think of your 2 to 3 year old child who suddenly runs across the road, their which mine did.
Yeah.
Their cerebellum is saying, right, let's go play. Okay, let's go run. We have to move. We just have to move.
Is that like the gross and fine motor skills area, all that
It
kind
is
of
for
stuff?
fine motor skill development, gross motor. The peak development is between the ages of 2 and 4, and it varies on sex and genetics and things like that.
Mm-hmm.
All right. They are the earliest ones that sort of are more fully developed.
Yeah.
But the brainstem is fully functional at birth, and the cerebellum grows and develops over time. We then move up to what some people call the mammalian brain, and that's your emotional brain.
Mm-hmm.
So the elements that make up that are the thalamus, which is an area just above the brainstem, or sort of part of the brainstem, which is where all of the information from the world around us and within our body, most of the information first goes to the thalamus.
Okay.
All right, so that is sort of the information desk, where information goes before it gets sent other places. Mm-hmm. Does that make sense?
Yeah. I've got images of like inside out happening in my head right now.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. Headquarters.
Yeah. All right. So the mammalian brain also involves an area called the amygdala. Now, I spend my life dealing with people's amygdalas. Mm-hmm. The amygdala is the area of the brain which I refer to as the security guard of the brain.
Yeah.
It looks out for danger.
Yeah.
It watches for danger, and if it senses danger, it will tell the brain to tell the body, we need to run away from the threat.
Yeah.
We need to fight the threat.
Yeah.
We need to actively freeze.
Yeah.
Or we need to shut down and play dead.
Yeah.
Its role is about protecting the person no matter what.
Total survival.
It is pure survival.
Yeah.
The other part that makes up that mammalian emotional brain is the hippocampus. Now that is related to memory, and that really doesn't start being functional until you're about 2 years old. Mm-hmm. Memory storage before then is through the survival part, the amygdala, and it is mostly sensory based. So when we're talking about the senses, we're talking about vision, hearing, taste, touch, smell, but also the sensations from our body.
Okay.
All right. So those, it's stored as, that's the type of memory it's stored as. Mm-hmm. So we might not have sort of thought memories before the age of 2, but we have sensory memories, certain smells, certain things that remind us of a time.
Yep.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Good. The brain then moves upwards, and what makes us apparently different to a lot of other animals on the planet is our cortex. This is the last part that has happened through evolution and is just the most amazing area of the brain. I mean, I love the brain. It's just so insanely complicated. The cortex is where information goes for further processing. It is processed to figure out what is that information and what does it mean. What does the information, what are we going to do with that information? How does it affect us? And what plan are we going to put in place to then enact regarding that information?
Okay.
That develops and grows between the ages of 0, so once they're born, until they're 25.
Right, okay.
It grows and develops from the back of the brain over towards the prefrontal.
Okay.
The prefrontal area of the brain is one of the most important areas, especially for human beings. Okay? Now, the other parts that we need to discuss about the brain is an area called the corpus callosum. So the brain, and many people may know this, but the brain has a right side and a left side. For most people, the right side of the brain is more focused and stronger in regards to creativity. Okay? The left side of the brain tends to be much more logical, planning and reasoning. The prefrontal areas of the brain are the last bits to grow and develop. The right prefrontal is focused around connections and social interactions.
Okay.
It is in charge of empathy, and again, the right side is that creativity. The left prefrontal is involved in logic, reasoning, planning. All right, and they are the last things to develop. So a 2-year-old will not have a functional cortex.
Okay.
It doesn't have it. All right, because it's still growing and developing it.
So when I'm battling out with my almost 3-year-old, but was 2-year-old, and requesting him to be a bit logical right now, stop flipping your lid, like, come on, calm down, that's being really irresponsible. That's really not going to help, is it?
Well, it's not that it's not going to help, it's that he doesn't have the physiological growth and development to do that.
Okay.
So one of the things is that the left and the right brain have an area that help it communicate, and they're meant to communicate very well together and work together. Both sides can do each of the things, but the right side is stronger in some areas, the left side stronger in others. The area that communicates is called the corpus callosum. All right, and that's the superhighway to send messages from the right side of the brain to the left, to the left, to the right. All right. When we're born, we have neurons. We have neurons galore, billions of them. But they haven't formed pathways. So I want you to think of a dot the dot. All right? Think of those massive dot the dots that have 1,000 dots.
Yeah.
Our brains have like 1 billion dots, but they haven't made the connections yet.
Yeah.
The brainstem is functional. As we go higher, the amygdala is 70% functional when we're born. And as we go to the cortex is not functional. It has the dots, but the pathways haven't developed.
Yeah.
The only way those pathways grow and develop is through learning. And the only people that they learn from are the adult brains that they have access to. That is the only way that those pathways are going to grow and develop. When I want you to think about a baby. Can a baby look after itself?
No.
Can it feed itself?
No.
Can it change its nappy?
No.
It is 100% dependent on us.
Yeah.
All right? Its growing brain is 100% dependent on us.
Yeah.
Now, as we talk about all of this stuff, number one, this is not about shaming or to make people feel guilty. The reality is, and I will hopefully reiterate this every single video, is that no parent is perfect. We are human beings and we make mistakes. This is about learning things that we can do and how to minimize how many times we make mistakes. And if we do make mistakes, how we can learn from them.
Yeah.
I, as a parent of 3 children, have made so many mistakes. All right. Part of the reason I got into doing parenting programs was because I had no idea what I was doing.
Yeah.
And I wanted to do better.
Yeah.
All right. So this is about all of us working together to learn how we can learn from our mistakes.
Yeah. And
work to do even better with our kids.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right. Nobody is going to get it perfect 100% of the time.
No. And it's probably a good reflection tool for us as well, because obviously we were once children and babies, so we've learnt some things and maybe the way we're behaving from different things. So it's very good to look at all of that, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
All right. At the end of the day, all of us do the very, very best we can with the skills that we have. So the point of this entire series of videos is about improving our capability, improving our knowledge and our skills and education. All right. Which again is why questions are so important. The Bringing Up Great Kids program, which these videos are based on, and Dan Siegel's work is all about reflection. Okay? So, the reality is, if we're trying to help our baby's brain grow, we need to think about, and it's growing from our brain.
Yeah.
Whose brain needs to be intact?
Yeah, pretty
and
sure.
Well.
Yeah, pretty sure we need to do some work on ourselves first, right?
All right.
Yeah.
So the reality is, if we want our children's brain to be growing in a well, healthy way, we need to be well, healthy brains. All right. And that is why self-care is absolutely paramount. Now, again, especially as mothers, we don't tend to prioritise ourselves because we feel guilty. All right? I remember when I had my first kid and nobody warned me about mother guilt. You feel guilty about everything. You give your child a pacifier, you feel guilty. Somebody will make you feel guilty. You don't give them a pacifier. Why are you letting the child cry? Give them a pacifier. It is impossible to keep everybody happy. I treat parenting like a wedding. It is impossible to keep everybody happy. Sort out what you want to do, what you feel is right for you and for your child, and do that.
Yeah.
Everybody else can walk away and criticize somebody else.
Yeah.
All right? So the reality is, it is absolutely essential for our children for us to take time for self-care.
Yes.
And I think we all need to hear that, both dads and mums, carers, guardians, whoever you might be with a little one that you're raising or a teenager that you're raising. Self-care is the first step in being the best parent that you can be. Do we all get it right? No.
No. No.
Because, especially when, some of us are working. Some of us are doing paid work. Some of us have to leave home to work. Some of us are at home, which personally I think is the harder job, to be at home with children.
Take my hat off to
Absolutely.
Carers at home.
Hardest job in the world.
Yeah.
All right. So that is the basis that we need to be looking at. Okay. So before we go into other elements about what children's brains need to grow, I want to talk about self-care.
Yeah.
All right. So mindfulness is something that is extremely useful, and there's lots of evidence, lots of research to show that helps to quiet down the brain, calm it down, and to that security guard center, that amygdala center, it actually calms it down and says you don't need to be on so much.
Yeah.
That's where mindfulness can be of use.
Yeah.
For anybody at home or wherever you are watching this, if you are having trouble relaxing enough and being centered enough to practice mindfulness, please go and see a professional, a general practitioner or a psychologist, to have a chat to them about what might be going on with you physically or psychologically that might be blocking that from happening. All right? Because we need to be able to do those things to be able to be the best brains so that we can be the best parents.
Yeah. So mindfulness is a big topic in itself.
Yeah.
But if you're, totally new to this concept of self-care and concept of mindfulness, like where would you start?
Yep.
Where's a good, there's some...
Yep. So the best apps that I like, Headspace is a good app, but it's now subscription based.
Okay.
So I tend to refer people to the Smiling Minds.
Yeah.
It has lots of different programs. You have it on your phone and you can use it anywhere. There are lots of different breathing ones that you can do. There's calm ones. Listening to music can be enough. And again, for each person, it's going to vary what you find is the thing to center yourself. So throughout this series, what we will be doing is practicing mindfulness.
Good.
All right? Because it's an essential skill.
Yeah.
And hopefully now people can understand why it's essential for us to practice it, so that we can be the best parents.
Yeah.
All right. So what we're going to do is talk about how children's brains grow. Ebony, I want you and everybody at home, I want you guys to think about it as well. What do you think a baby's brain needs to grow?
Nurturing, just those basic needs that it requires. I'm holding this.
You're going to hold that string.
Okay, cool. So, food, like milk, food.
So what I want you to do is you're going to hold that end, and you're going to tell me one thing that you're going to do to help your child's brain grow and grow those pathways. So you said you're going to feed it food?
Feed it food.
Good. All right, so for my child's brain, I'm going to give it hugs.
Okay. That's going to be my next thing. I'm going to change its nappy.
Good. So you're going to tidy its bum and keep it clean.
Yeah.
Good. I will sing a song to it.
Okay, lovely. I will bath it.
Good. I will play with it.
Oh, nice. Yes, we were talking about play before. I'll massage it. I'll give it a little massage every now and then.
So as you can see, and it might be a bit hard on the video, these are the pathways that we're growing. Okay?
Yep.
Now, I don't have another colour with me because I left it at home, but another way of looking at this is if we yell or scream at the baby, that might be a red string.
Okay, gotcha.
A red pathway.
Yeah.
If there is a need that our child has and we don't meet it, that might be a negative.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So it's about making sure that we do as many positives
Yes. Yeah.
and and minimize the negatives.
Yeah. Yeah.
Nobody's not going to have negatives. Anybody who says they've got negatives is lying.
Yeah, that's right.
And probably delusional.
Yeah.
So, not that I can diagnose that from here, but I'm just saying they're lying.
It's pretty obvious.
All right.
Yeah.
Nobody has it where there's no negatives.
Yeah.
Okay, but it's about continuing to provide.
So if say, like we're learning this now, but if you're aware that maybe you've had a lot of negatives, and if that's through your own parenting or maybe a challenging relationship, or you're aware that there's probably experiences or exposures where those pathways are more negative, how do you combat that? Like, other than we can try, but then we possibly go to this extreme perfectionist thing.
Yep.
If you can't limit, like how do you work that through?
Yeah. So one of the things is that thankfully we have neuroplasticity. Our brain can grow and change, and that can happen right throughout our entire life.
Mm-hmm.
It happens at a massive amount and rate during childhood and adolescence.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So again, what it comes down to is meeting our children's needs and improving and reinforcing those positives.
Yeah.
So negative things might be happening.
Yeah.
But if we can do those positives and continue and reinforce them and reinforce them and reinforce them and reinforce them,
Yeah.
then that is the majority pathway.
Yeah. Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely.
So when it comes to the wiring of the brain and when we get older, our brain sort of coats the nerves, nerve pathways, and it will coat the ones that are the stronger ones.
Yeah.
So it will coat those ones,
Okay.
the positive ones, instead of those negatives.
Yeah.
As a parent, there are going to be some things that we don't have in our control. Okay? And again, this is about doing the best we can with what we have.
Yeah.
All right? And sometimes that means finding support. If there are other problems going on, then see a doctor, see a psychologist, get some assessments, get some help. All right? Because never, ever, ever are you alone as a parent. Even though I'm sure every parent has had moments where they feel like they're alone.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay?
Absolutely.
Good. So, we have the different functions. We've talked about the brain and how it grows and develops, remembering always that it grows from the bottom up.
Yeah.
The bottom parts are more fully developed as they go up. So the brainstem, the cerebellum, will be more fully developed before the emotional center. The emotional center will be more fully developed and fully developed before the cortex is. The cortex is not fully developed until they're 25.
Okay. Yeah.
They are still growing and developing. 18 is the adult years, and the reality is our brain can continue to grow and learn things, which is why we're all doing these videos.
Yeah. Yeah,
Okay.
absolutely. Yeah.
So what we talked about laying down the pathways. So we need to have a think about, similarly to what you were just saying, what do we think it might be toxic to a child's growing, developing brain?
Yeah, well, negative words, I would imagine, like, particularly in that, or neglect, like, so if we're not responding to their basic needs, I mean, there is probably quite a bit to it. If I jump a little bit to a question that's come from Crystal, but also, a personal situation of my own, when you're in a separated household, and that kind of thing, as much as you try and not allow certain things to impact children, there's no way around that, and you can't control maybe how the other parties might be at times. So, all those kind of factors, I would imagine even just other people caring for the child, if they're not caring for them maybe in the same manner, you would like, I don't know, all of those kind
and
of
that's
things.
exactly it. There are lots of things that can be toxic to a developing brain, and that can be a direct impact to that developing brain, or a direct impact to the people who are raising that developing brain. All right, does that make sense?
Yeah.
I'm going to pull out my favourite piece of paper, and to those at home, I'll pop this up on the screen. All right. This is one of the most important things that people need to understand. Every human being has needs.
Yeah.
Now, I tend to refer to Maslow's hierarchy of needs. It's my personal favourite. It's linear. There are other different theories and things like that, but for me, it's what sits best for me.
Yeah.
All right. Every human being needs physiological needs.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. They need water, air, food, shelter, sleep, clothing, those sorts of things.
Yeah.
Okay. And as a parent, it's our job to meet those needs for that child. Every human being needs to feel safe and secure.
Yeah.
They need to know that. So for adults, we need to know that we've got a job so that we can earn money, so that we can pay for the house, so that we can pay for those physiological needs that we and our dependents need.
Yeah.
Okay? So we need to feel safe and secure in those jobs. One of the things that I'm watching happening in our society is the rate of casual work. Okay? Because it doesn't allow for safety and security.
Correct, yeah.
And if people don't feel safe and secure, then they're going to be stressed.
Anxious
and if they're stressed, they're more in survival state.
Yeah.
If you are in a survival state and you're pouring energy into being in a survival state, your body has less energy to feed to your brain areas for growth and development. Yeah. And what is the last part that grows and develops? The cortex. Which means that the cortex is the area which will most suffer in growth and development if there is ongoing stress.
Yeah.
Okay? Every human being needs love and belonging.
Yeah.
They need to feel that they've got a purpose, that they've got a place, that they belong to a system, to a group.
Yeah. So it's not just the self-identity, that's just more of that wider community connection.
It is really hard to have and develop self-identity. It is not impossible, but it is really difficult to have self-esteem, to develop self-worth and that real self-identity of who you are if you are busy surviving because you don't have love and belonging. Yeah. You don't have that safety and security. Yeah. One of the things that is happening with COVID at the moment is around the threat to work, the threat to life due to health, which makes everybody more stressed because it's a risk to people's safety. Yeah. All right? Yeah. If it's a risk to people's safety, then that will increase their stress, which means that their ability to function with their thinking part of their brain is harder. Yeah. All right? For some people, that leads to fighting in a supermarket over toilet paper. Because when it comes to survival, your emotional brain, that amygdala, will tell the brain, if I don't get that toilet paper, I am in threat and I might die. Yeah. Does it make sense? No. But the part of the brain that works at making sense is the cortex. And is the cortex on when we're running from a lion trying to eat us? No. Our survival part is on. Yeah. So, and this leads into our future sessions around that survival and our behaviours and our responses. I look at behaviour as being either a reaction around survival or a thought out cortex thinking.
Yeah.
So I will frequently refer to things as either being a reactionary survival behaviour or a cortical thinking behaviour. Okay? So, and hopefully now everybody has a bit of an understanding about those different areas and how they work. All right. Have you got any questions there?
So, just would be, so if there's negative things occurring, or those linkages are breaking down or what have you, does that also impact on development as a whole? Or does that development still just occur and it's more so just the forming of the internal workings of the brain? Do you know what I mean?
Yep. So depending on what sorts of things happen. So again, if those needs aren't met, the love and the belonging, the safety and the security, the physiological needs aren't met, that will impair the ability of the brain to grow and develop.
Okay.
So that will depend on what that person's brain has experienced at what age of development, because the brain grows and develops at different stages at different ages.
Yeah.
And it also develops different depending on gender.
Okay.
So girls' brain will develop at a different rate to boys' brains.
Okay.
All right. So for a child who at the age of 7 experienced 6 months of not having enough food, for example, that will be very different to the effect on that brain development to a 13-year-old who has had 6 months of not enough food.
Yeah.
Because different areas of the brain are growing in development. It will affect it, but it doesn't, and in that moment it might be a negative thing, but it doesn't mean that it can't be healed and it can't be helped.
Yeah.
And that is about providing and meeting the needs.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. I was going to say that's probably the hope in it then, isn't it? So
Hope.
If you're going from the what was that? The newborn through to the 2-year-old brain, and you say at, I don't know, 1, they've had some form of traumatic experience, or who knows what that could be. If that doesn't develop as much, but you're saying that over time that still can be healed with positive reinforcement,
yes,
right?
Absolutely.
Okay.
With lots of, and again, it depends on what sorts of things have happened, how long it's happened for, and genetics as well. All those sorts of things play a factor.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, if anybody was to ever have any concerns, they should go and see their doctor, get a referral to a paediatrician if they are that concerned.
Yeah.
Get a referral to a psychologist so that they can have that assessed and identify where things might need some assistance.
Yeah.
All right. So the reality is there are lots of things that can cause toxicity, but there are lots of things that we can now do and know to meet those needs.
Yeah.
All right. I want everybody to remember those hierarchy of needs though, because they are. We talk about children in these sessions, but they work for everybody.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I use it for everybody that I work with. And any human being that I come across, and it works. So we've talked about the different functions, we've talked about that, the up and down. I think that sort of covers what I'd hoped to cover today.
Okay.
So did you have any other questions or?
Well, I am going to ask one, because I feel like this might come from the group at some point as well, and it might be covered in a future session. But in respect to, say, the messaging, or where I don't know, when you're in a relationship with someone and you're coming in with 2 different households, particularly when you had a first baby, everyone, we're all just excited about the baby getting, coming to this world, and then sometimes we don't really think about the parenting as such and how we're going to parent. We've come from different family values or what have you, and then you're trying to find your own, and often there can be that kind of tension and clashing. So sometimes it's perceived positive or negative, or what have you, by each party in that relationship. But if you are feeling like you're still in a relationship and you would like that relationship to continue, but how do you work that kind of stuff through when you might both have very different ways of looking at it, and one one party is very aware or, you know, learning this stuff and that kind of thing, and do you know what I mean? Like, how does, because that all impacts.
And it's something that will generally happen in a relationship, because you're two people, you're going to have different views and you're going to have different ideas. Most of it comes to compromise. Yeah. If there can't be compromise, I would strongly recommend relationship counselling. Yeah. So that those issues and each person can be heard in a safe environment. And education. Yeah. So both parties learning and coming to an agreement about what will happen. Yeah. Again, this tends to come down to the safety and security that a person feels. Yeah. So for a child that is growing and developing, they need to feel safe and secure, and that is related to consistency, predictability. Yeah. Today's Tuesday, I know that when I'm going to go, this is going to happen. Yeah. On Saturday, this is going to happen. They need to know that it's going to be consistent and predictable. Now, we can't, especially in separation, things like that, we can't necessarily control how the other partner parents. But as long as the child can know that there's consistency and understands the boundaries and that sort of stuff, then hopefully that will at least allow them to grasp some level of security and predictability. Yeah. Yeah. All right. Yeah, so absolutely. I would strongly recommend that if there is significant conflict and people can't come to agreement, I really, really recommend Relationships Australia, because that's their specialty. Their specialty is working in relationships. It's helping people with mediation and working through differences of opinions and that sort of stuff. Yeah. So if things are really struggling, I really, really recommend Relationships Australia, so that can sort of be addressed. Yeah.
So Crystal from the group put up a post during the week just asking around the impacts of, I guess, becoming a single parent and, you know, separation of parents with children, which we've kind of touched on there. Yeah. And I would imagine we probably might need to touch on that throughout the series, right? Yeah, absolutely. And I guess, you know, I think it, you know, I guess this is me personally talking, but you might have some comments. It really depends on, I guess, even your functionality as co-parents. If you can function well as co-parents, I guess, and if you're on the same page and it is all about the children, unfortunately that's not necessarily how all separated, you know, situations are. So it really depends on, I guess, a number of factors and personalities involved and so forth. But yeah, and maybe the reasons why, you know, because obviously that sometimes gives a different bent on things. But it'll be interesting, I guess, to see, hear a lot more of your comments. I'd be really keen to hear that as we go.
I mean, at the end of the day, you have to weigh up the pros and cons, all right? Being a single parent is an extremely rough job. Like, it is a hard job. It's hard enough parenting when you've got somebody who is there to support you that you can bounce things off. Yeah. It is incredibly hard, and I take my hat off to every parent who is a single parent, because that is so much more difficult in that regard. You don't get a break. You don't get time to just or anybody to sort of bounce things off in that regard. Yeah. So single parenting is difficult. Will it have an effect on the kids? Yes. Because everything that we experience in life has an effect on their growth and development. Yeah, absolutely. But it doesn't necessarily have to be a negative thing.
No, that's right.
It can just be an opportunity to help them learn about differences and grow resilience and learn differences in parenting. Yeah. Again, as long as we can continue as a parent to meet the needs of our children, that's our job and that's all we can do.
Absolutely.
Interestingly, and what I love is that on Maslow's hierarchy of needs, gaming is not on there. Okay? Yes, we need connection, but gaming, iPads, iPhones, all those sorts of things are not on there. Yeah. So, again, these things take time, and again, throughout the series, we'll be talking about this stuff further. But
and sometimes as well, just picking up on that, like, yes, being separated obviously impacts, and that's, you know, always a big, you know, fear, I think, for many couples as they go through that process. But, you know, certainly in some situations, the potential negative impacts of staying in a situation
Exactly.
can be higher.
Yeah.
So,
And that's
you know,
the point I
there
definitely
is
wanted to make. Yeah.
no perfect.
No.
There's no perfect form of parenting these days, or, you know, relationships or anything.
That's exactly it.
It's your own interpretation of
being
it, I guess.
separate and ending up with single parents will have an impact, but so will staying in an unhappy relationship with someone. All right, and that's where it comes down to working out what do you think will be the least impact,
Absolutely,
the least negative impact. At the end of the day, when there are separations and breakdowns of relationships, nobody wins except lawyers.
Yeah.
So there's no winners. There's no happy outcome necessarily. It's more what is going to cause the least disruption and upset for all the parties involved.
Absolutely. And as you've alluded to a number of times, talking to GPs and counsellors and psychologists and other people, you know, make sure you've got a support base around you to help make a good informed decision for yourself, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Cool.
Excellent. So one of the things that we're going to do is at the end of each session is talk about we've talked about mindfulness earlier. Part of the program that I absolutely love, and I thought I had, did I have it here somewhere? No. Oh, yeah. So I have a present for Ebony today.
Oh.
These are one of my favourite tools and I use them all the time. So Australian Childhood Foundation sells these. I tend to buy them bulk and hand them out. So they have a stop button, a pause button and a play button. So Ebony, that is for you.
Oh,
and
nice.
What we are going to practice, and I encourage everybody at home to practice this, okay, is that when we're dealing with our kids or any human being, like I said, it works for everybody. The first thing we need to do is to stop.
Yeah.
Okay? And what I get people to do, we talked before about to be able to be there for our children's brains, we need to be well in ourselves. Yeah? So the first thing we need to do is just check in with ourselves and go, where am I at? How am I feeling on my stress scale?
Yeah.
Now I tend to use a 1 to 5 scale. Okay? So at the moment, I'm feeling great. I feel about a 1.5 out of 5. So I'm pretty happy and relaxed and chill because I'm hanging out with my mate, having a cup of tea, talking about stuff I'm passionate about.
Yeah.
All right. If I was at home with my children who are hungry and tired and nagging me, I might be a 4 out of 5.
Yeah.
Okay? So the reality is, if I was a 4 out of 5, what I need to do, instead of trying to engage with my child, I need to pause. So I press the pause button.
Yeah.
Then I need to do whatever it is I need to do, whether it's a physical outlet or a mindfulness outlet, to try and calm my brain so that it's at least a 2 out of 5. Do not engage with your children or anybody if you can help it if you are over a 2 out of 5.
Yeah.
And that takes practice.
Yeah.
Lots and lots of practice.
Yeah.
For a lot of people, a lot of adults that have not had the support and the care and the love that they needed growing up, many adults don't know what it's like to feel cool, calm and collected.
Yeah.
A lot of adults that I work with and that I know have never experienced life less than a 3 out of 5.
Yeah, right.
Okay? So the reality is, if we're trying to raise our children and we're never less than a 3 out of 5, our children's brains are never ever going to be less than a 3 out of 5.
Yeah. They're going to grow up heightened like
they
that,
will,
right?
all right? So the reality is we need to learn to calm ourselves down so that that child's brain can then regulate. It's called co-regulation. And again, we will continue to talk about this continuously throughout the series. Once we are regulated, we can press the play button.
Yeah, okay.
And then we can engage.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay? And again, that talks about, that's really around those stress levels. So if we are more in our survival mode, dysregulated right brain, we can't think rationally, logically, and process things.
Yeah.
We are more reactive.
Yeah.
If we want our children to be able to be logical and rational, we need to model it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because that's how those pathways grow.
Okay.
All right?
Yeah.
So if everybody can try and practice that, your homework is to practice that.
Absolutely.
And for those at home, your homework is to think up any questions that you have about what we've discussed today. Go to the Facebook page and put it up there, remembering to put question at the start of it, and we will try and address it either next week or throughout the series as we go along.
Yeah, absolutely. Cool.
Have you got any questions or comments?
No, I think the only other bit of homework I'd add in there is that if you've never explored a mindfulness app, maybe downloading something like the Smiling Minds, which is free, and just
try it.
Yeah, give it a go. Expose yourself to it. Yeah. Be a little vulnerable. Might be a bit different to what you've been used to, but it would be good to, I think, through the Facebook group, maybe share how people are going with finding some things to help us be more mindful. This is so cool, by the way. It's actually a squishy.
It is.
remote control thing.
And I frequently give them to people to have in the car and use it on the kids.
Yes.
So teach the kids how to go stop. What number are you at?
Yes,
pause.
Right.
Let's do an activity. And you can have a lot of fun with it. So my kids will frequently just grab it and stop.
Yeah.
And then you pause. And then you play and you go back and they'll stop. So
it's great.
Again.
Nice.
See how you go. Feel free to discuss and ask questions. And next week we will be talking about the brain as a message centre and the receiving of messages and the role around that.
Yeah. Cool. Lovely. All right.
Thank you all for joining us.
Yeah.
And we hope to see you in future sessions. See if I can spit it out.
All right.
Bye.
Catch you later.